Hopefully
Okay.
it sticks. I just changed the timer again and let me in and let me do it. So hopefully it works. I apologize about that.
Before we got cut off, you were discussing the wake up and smell the coffee fee.
We got we don't
all
we
the
get
all
yeah
the
we get
fees you don't get to look
we
at,
get
and
the
you don't
fees
get to shop around for
and we don't even
service.
know them.
And
We have no idea what they are because they I mean, if you look at the bill, they look so pretty and they're so hidden and it's like it looks so important and it's you're just getting screwed. They're charging you for stuff that like back in the day. No, you weren't around back in the before 2008. In the lending world, they were the junk fees. They were called junk fees in the lending world because back before the crisis, it was the wild west in this industry, and the compensation that people made is insane. And you hear terminology like in the points in the front and points in the back. You guys might have heard that. That type of lingo, and then junk fees. I mean, I used to call them not paying attention fees because you could add fees. Processing fee, underwriting fee. I don't feel good this morning fee. I'm gonna have coffee on you fee. Like you put all these fees on the back then on the HUD, and some people got like this royally screwed, and they had no idea how they were getting screwed. It's exactly the same thing. I mean, do you find that, Steve, that people when you show them the bill?
Yeah, that's honestly my favorite thing to do. That's the first thing we do. Before we can even talk about solar, we got to understand what they're paying for and how their current service works, because you're right. Most people aren't going to look at it. Why would they look at it? Right? There is no competition in their eyes, right? I have to pay this bill. If I don't, my lights get turned off. If they go up 10, 20, 30% in a year, what choice do I have, right? And on the utility side, it's an investor, 80% of them are investor-owned utilities. They have shareholders, right? Anything goes up, gas price goes up, natural gas prices go up, right? All those fees or even infrastructure costs are passed on to homeowners. So the first thing I do when I explain to them the bill is there's an energy charge, and there's like a fuel charge or a distribution charge. So you might be paying like, let's say $100 for the energy, and then you might be paying 150 to bring that all the way to your house, right? Because all that infrastructure costs money. For example, FPL, which is, the biggest utility here in Florida, a few years ago, they spent like $40 million just on trimming trees around the power lines, right? That's not even actual maintenance on the grid. So it is expensive. And utilities, yeah, they're fine with people going solar, but after a while, we're nowhere near that. But once it gets past maybe 10%, it will start cutting more into their profits, because solar people, they're not paying for the energy because, we're taking advantage of the world's largest nuclear power plant in the sky that someone put there. And you're not paying for the shipping and handling. So it's wireless, right? So we get to avoid the economics of, price inflation or maintenance inflation, or, the fact that so many people are moving here. New communities are being built every other day, and we have to all share in those costs. So what you're going to see is that over time, in the beginning, the best incentives for solar are right now, which is the net metering 1.0, which is for every dollar of energy you give to the grid, they give you that full energy back. It's not always going to be like that, right? Like California, they had that for the longest time. Their solar's like crazy. April, this month, they're now reducing that credit. So for a dollar of energy you give them, they're only going to give you like 25 cents. So that's like a 75% reduction in the credit. So people over there, I had a cousin in California, I haven't touched a little while. He called me. He was like, "Hey, you guys do solar in Cali?" I was like, "Yeah, man." He's like, "Yeah, I'm trying to beat it before they change the rules, because if you get the net metering the way it is now, you get grandfathered in for the next 20 years, and so the payback on that is going to be a lot faster." So,
and the reason for that is I'm assuming because there's already, number one, the costs have gone up significantly, and number two, there's already a good enough of people that have solar in California where they're like, okay, we give them too much, let's move on, right?
That's exactly
it's economics. It's just
In the beginning, they have a large incentive to get people going, but after a while, they're like, well, solar already makes sense. We're going to lower, kind of sunset the benefits, kind of like they do with the solar tax credit, right? Right now it's for the next 10 years, and then it'll go away. So for these next 10 years, they're calling it, the solar decade or the electrification of America. And it's also going to help with inflation, because if your energy prices aren't going up, 5 to 10% every year, that's also helping, the economy right here in the middle class.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, sometimes solar always hasn't always been done right. It's a deregulated market, so you want to be careful, with going with two guys in a solar truck, because you want to make sure this system's going to last, but you want to make sure that you have a good warranty with a reputable company that's going to, just like anything.
Well, how does the installation process work? And what are the things that people should consider before deciding to install the solar panels?
I would say the main thing is that is just get a roof inspection, just to make sure that your roof is good. It'll be a little bit of it might be a little bit of a hassle getting your roof done, taking off the panels and putting back on. We do it all the time. A lot of times it's even covered by the insurance for the last few cases that I was able to do. But if your roof has a leak in it, right, you don't want to just slap solar on it. Let's just make sure we do the project right. And then we'll double check the electrical, we'll upgrade the electrical. So there's not really much that the homeowner really has to worry about. Our process is pretty simple. You send an electric bill, and within 24 hours you get a free custom design with exactly how much you would save and what that new monthly would look like, and how much offset we could do. And with the company that I have right now with Freedom Forever, we're bringing a lot of other, we're bringing a lot of people from different companies are moving over here because we have a money back guarantee. If I'm going to, be selling this to my aunt and my friend and my cousin, I want to be sure that no matter what happens, even if the system's producing zero energy, that my customers guarantee those number of kilowatts every year.
With that said, I mean, if the home needs to be updated as far as electrical and the roof before the installation of the solar panels, is that an out-of-pocket cost to the owner?
No, I've been able to bundle roofs and electrical all at the same time for several projects.
And my sons, and I honestly don't know. I don't remember the current company he's at. He's been there for a couple of months. I don't know of the name of the top of my head, to be. I got to ask him, but they have and I didn't bet at the current company he's with. That's not where I bought my panels from, so that's why I don't know the name of it. But they have, as his current company, you're able to include the roof. When the homeowner needs the roof, they can include it, which is another and here's a little if you're not using this, Stephen, if you can utilize that, that's a big problem coming here in Florida. People's with roofs. There's no financing with the new changes in insurance. The insurance companies are pretty much not going to cover roofs. I mean, it's got to be, it's got to be a legit situation in a hurricane. It's got to come off and rip it off. That's what will be covered. But I think the days of these people knocking on doors and say we can change your roof for free and just give us, because they already signed into law, they can no longer transfer the power over. The homeowner cannot transfer the power over to the roofing companies to litigate. So that's kind of gone. So the next step is people are going to they're going to be told by the insurance companies, you need to replace your roof or we're not going to insure you. And there's a lot of people that, you can't really just go out, and a lot of roofing companies don't offer financing. So that's an out-of-pocket expense for people, or do a HELOC and take money out of your house, or refinance and cash out at a higher rate if you're already at a low rate. So this is a great option at a fairly low price, low rate, that you can add the cost of the roof to your roof, so you get the new roof and you get the panel. So it's just another plus. It's just there's too many pluses.
Yeah, and I love partnering with roofers. I mean, they have a long list of people who just got a brand new roof ready for solar. But yeah, it just makes sense. We offer better financing, right? Financing products that these roofers won't have access to. That's stretched over a 25-year period or even a 30-year period at a relatively low fixed interest rate. And so they can finance the roof, right, together with the solar, get a price that's probably not even too far from the current electricity, and it includes the roof as well. And then they can still have their claim as long as they do the claim before the roof gets done. So that way, potentially, the homeowner can still get that money for the roof as well. Because I've had some certain claims may take 30 days, 45 days. I have a really good insurance adjuster, third party that comes and gets these things approved. But I've had one where it took, you know, almost a whole year. It got done, but it took a whole year. So in those scenarios, we can get the roof done with the solar all together, put the claim in before. And so if you do get the money, great, they can just put that money right back into the system. And now they, you know, they prevented the roof from getting worse, because for some insurance companies, if you procrastinate too much and you let your roof kind of get too bad, you know, they're looking for any excuse not to cover you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, what I've been seeing, I've seen two scenarios recently, most recently, where the homeowners insurance, I've seen one scenario where the homeowners insurance just said, hey, we're not covering you anymore. And then two other cases where it was like literally a $3,000 to $4,000 increase in coverage just because of the age of the roof.
Yeah.
That's where it's at. That's a big, I mean, that's another big plus for people. It's not meant for that, but it's a side benefit of that. You're able to get the roof, you know, and then correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm assuming that the roof is gonna last longer because the panels are on top of the roof and kind of protected the roof. So you're gonna have a longer lifetime on your roof anyway. So I mean, it just makes sense. I mean, it just makes sense from every angle.
We got a bunch of videos of here in Florida after
Hurricane.
and these houses, you can see a bunch of missing shingles where you don't have the panels, right? And so the structural integrity of these solar panels is way superior than those of the shingles of a regular roof. And so the number one reason for a claim is wind, right? The wind, you know, blowing them off. And also over time, they say after maybe 15 or 10 years, it's because of the sun is beating on the roof so much. If you have one of those regular shingle roofs, then the stickiness, right, or the glue kind of comes off and kind of deteriorates. So by adding the panels, it's kind of like having a exoskeleton or a metal umbrella.
A layer of protection.
Right? It's like go to your house and look, you know, find a rug and look under it. You're gonna see it's a lot cleaner under there. And it's gonna be the same way with your roof. So it's gonna add structural integrity. It's gonna keep your attic a little bit cooler because we're gonna put everything on the south facing side where it gets the most sun. And it might, you know, lower your AC a little bit. I don't put that in there as far as the calculations go because those are more speculative. But it's definitely a factor. You know, when it comes to people going solar. I mean, the utilities, they're building these giant solar farms, you know, billions of dollars. They're not worried about,
yeah,
you know,
for sure.
Get every year, right? That wouldn't be a smart investment if they were worried about it. So the technology is proven. It's just an education thing. And that's why, like I said, I'm glad we're having these types of conversations because this is the stuff that's going to make our homeowners more than $100,000 richer by the time they go into retirement. It's, you know, I'm not saying
Plus what they save up during the lifetime paying it.
Yeah.
And if they happen to pay it off in time, they use the credit. If they use the tax credit and they pay it back and they actually pay it off faster, then they're gonna have no electric bill.
And there's so many options now that's opened up because before we couldn't offer third-party ownership. We had to fight for that as well. So back in the day, your only option was to own the panels. But for some people, let's say they don't have a taxable income. So maybe they wouldn't benefit from the tax credit, or maybe they're not in a position to finance something right now because they're debt to income or whatever the case might be. There's now another option where you don't even have to buy the panels. You don't even own the panels. You can lease the panels, which essentially just says, hey, look, let's protect you from inflation. You know, you're not going to be building equity or any of the other benefits you get from solar, but at least you can avoid the negative compound interest that you're going to be seeing with your utility and have it be fixed, you know, for the time being. Like I said, it's just like locking in your gas prices today if you believe that they're going to be going up. You know, so people are running out of excuses why not to go solar,
but so back to that statement that you said earlier that they kind of sell themselves. That's not necessarily true because if they sold themselves, everybody would be buying it, right?
Definitely.
So how much convincing do you find yourself having to do, you know, very briefly in order to get somebody from one side to the other?
I want to say maybe after they send me the electrical bill and I put it together, me sitting and talking with them, I say probably after 30 minutes, they pretty much get what's going on. It's either going to make sense. They either want to pay more and be inflation, or they want to pay less and lock it in. You know, and it's just kind of they'll have questions. We just need to address some of those questions or concerns that they have. Like you said, like, you know what I mean, or like the transferability or like the tax credit. So there's a few, you know, incentives there that they might want to learn about, but the basic concept, once I sit down with somebody, and not to toot my own horn, but, you know, 80 to 90% of the people I talk to say, yes, I want to do it. You know, whether they qualify, that's a different story. But once people understand that, you know, they can kind of have more control over a forever bill, you know, they're happy to make the switch if they can, if it's possible.
Yeah. John, on the mortgage side, when people apply for a mortgage, does it matter whether or not the units, the solar panels are leased or owned?
Yes, it does. And leasing is a pain in the ass.
What's the difference?
Keep it real here, man. This is what we do here, right? For mortgage purpose, leasing is a pain in the ass. Because there's a lot of hurdles you got to overcome to flip to when you do a refinance, if you're refinancing the property, or if you're selling it for that matter. The financing part of it adds another layer of stress to the already stressful situation. So my experience with leasing has been from the mortgage side, not as a consumer, but it's been, if you're going to do a mortgage, you gotta be prepared to do extra legwork and have a good LO doing it. That's what you need to do.
But you would think.
Let's say there's a house, let's say, that has a lease solar system on it, right? And so in this scenario, what, you're helping somebody buy that house that has a lease on it?
It's been both. Like, it's been, if they already, it's more a problem when they're refinancing and it has a lease. I mean, it's just additional step. It gets done. It can be done. I mean, it's nothing, but it's a different process. And so if somebody calls me up and says, John, I'm deciding whether to buy or lease panels, the final decision maker is, you know, my mortgage is and I said, buy. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, because buying is definitely, it's a better option. Like, it's just, you own it, it's yours, you're free and clear. It's just
No
like
argument there. No argument there. Buying it is definitely
lease is just another additional option. But for the mortgage part of it, people need to understand that yes, they can get into it qualified, but it's going to be an additional layer when they have to mortgage. They just got to get more paperwork and do more legwork.
Yeah, but yeah, definitely.
And you have to count the payment against the DTI.
Okay.
On the lease, right?
But on the lease and on the purchase, the purchase is that on your credit, it doesn't matter. But the lease also impacts your debt to income. So it's not like for the mortgage part of it, it's not a wash through because you don't own it. There's no tax benefit. There's no tax credit, as Stephen already said. So it's just a pass through, and then it's, you know, when you buy it, you can reduce certain things. When you lease it, you really can't. So it's just another debt that's added. It's debt added to the DTI. So for the mortgage purpose, there's nothing to offset it. So it's not a benefit, it's a con in qualifying. Does that make sense?
The only thing is that when
is the electric bill considered DTI? I'm just curious. It's not.
No.
And that's the
difference. That's the key. Right?
That's the part.
That's a big, like, they don't count electric, but they, you know, and that's a huge number. Huge. Because if they counted electric, a lot of people wouldn't qualify to buy a house.
Yeah,
you really wouldn't.
Exactly.
I mean,
Exactly.
You know what I mean? That's just the system, how it's set up. You know, if you $300 a month, you know, electric bill, somebody would credit $300 a month payment. What are you doing? But they got the electric bill. But because it's the electric bill, we don't count that. I mean, it's just awful. It's just people get screwed every which way. Like, it's just it's terrible, man. It's frustrating to kind of see that, you know.
Yeah. So check this out. This is the thing. With that being said, right, when someone owns the units but they're still paying on it before closing, in some cases sellers would have to close out that balance. So in the case where the seller is willing to contribute to close out the balance on their debt for the solar panels and leave the solar panels behind, then it kind of, that's a plus, that's a surplus for the buyer. Right?
Yeah,
and they don't have to qualify for the purchase of the units.
Correct. And from the mortgage perspective on the appraisal, the panels will give added value to the property.
Only if they're paid off.
Correct. Well,
If they're
well,
leased, if they're
no,
leased,
not if they're leased.
they
correct.
will not.
If they're owned, they will the property value will increase with the panels on it. So if the seller is going to sell the house and still has a balance, the seller can include that balance onto the purchase price at least, at minimum. So the seller doesn't necessarily have to be out of pocket, but they're selling the house for a higher price and they're selling the house, so it's just another added incentive, right? Because if you're the homeowner, if I'm the homeowner, or when I sell my house, if I sell my house, the first thing I'm going to do is print out my electric bill, my last 12 months, and say, here's I don't pay electric. You buy my house and you don't pay electric, and here's my electric bill. That'll be the first thing I do. I print it out. So as a homeowner, that's what you kind of, you know what I mean? You need to, that's what you need to do. And that gives you that value, you know, it's a selling point.
Yeah, and for the statistics, you're going to have your house less time on the market, and you're going to be selling it from a premium on all respects, on all the statistics, from Forbes to Zillow's to Rocket Mortgage, or whoever you look at. And as far as selling the house with the solar or paying it off, for both programs that we offer, for let's say for the ownership one, you don't have to pay off the panels because they're 100% transferable to the new owner. So you can just buy the house, just like you would normally buy a house, and then you can just transfer over the payment. We're used to transfer payments because when you buy a house, you got to transfer the utility over to the new homeowner, right?
So when you transfer those payments, does the new buyer, the new owner, have to qualify to afford those payments?
So for the leasing through Sunrun, no.
Okay.
For the leasing.
For leasing through Sunrun, which is the number one, Sunrun is the number one by a large margin because they're the only ones large enough to afford to buy people solar panels at this scale and be able to handle the tax credit on their own, right? So with the leasing, you can just transfer over the payments, right? And what's cool is that a lot of these utilities, when you transfer over the utility, sometimes they have to pay like a startup fee, or, initiation fee, and like all these different things to get going. Cool thing about Sunrun is that you automatically, if you're selling the home, they don't even have to qualify, right? They automatically qualify. They have a transfer team. Like I said, they have over hundreds of thousands of these homes, and believe me, they all sell, right? And so we have a team dedicated to transfer over there to the new homeowner. Yeah, it's an extra step, but we guarantee that they're 100% approved. And if the payment was $250 5 years ago, right, for electricity, and they locked it in with the leasing at like $200, 5 years from now when they sell the house, they're still at $200. Everyone else is at $350, right? So hey, by buying my house, I did the favor of just locking in your price for energy. You don't even have to buy the panels; just buy the house at whatever market value, and then here, boom, this, instead of your utility, we're going to transfer over you the solar utility. Or you can also choose to, if it's lease, then we can have a third-party appraiser come out, tell you what the value of the solar is, and then you can choose to buy this whole system and roll it into the mortgage. But for the leasing, you just transfer it over to the new owner, just the way you would with any other utility. With the ownership side of things, you just buy the house with the panels, just like you'd buy a house with a pool, or you'd buy a house with a nice kitchen, or any other scenario. But the added value that you get from this house, and the fact that it doesn't increase your property taxes, and the fact that it actually something that actually reduces, it pays for itself. Because a pool, not everybody wants a pool because the maintenance on the pool, the electricity is going to go way up on the pool, and not everybody uses a pool. Versus electricity, everybody uses electricity. It pays for itself, right? And you'll be able to protect yourself from the inevitable energy inflation that that we're seeing. So solar is honestly a great selling tool. Like I said, you're gonna be able to sell it for faster. Yeah, there might be some work for the people that are doing the work, which is you guys who are behind the scenes. But for the homeowner, for the person that's buying it, it's gonna be a win for them.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's all we have for today. Steve, any final thoughts before we wrap it up here?
Again, my name is Solar Steve. I'm putting a lot of content out on Instagram right now at solarsteve.nft. And so if anybody wants to, get connected and learn how they can, if they have solar and they just want to pay off their systems faster, I have a great referral program where we can possibly help you, John, pay off your system within the next 2 years, just by helping other people go solar. And so just, it's a great way to make money too. A lot of people, thinking about saving money, but just by you having this information and sharing, a few before and after bills with friends, this could be a great opportunity to build wealth in one of the largest energy sectors and one of the fastest growing sectors. So I'm happy to have more people jump on board asking these types of questions and helping everybody become independent and protect themselves and their families. So I want to say thank you so much, John and Robert, for having me on the call. Hopefully we can have more talks like this in the future. I'm excited.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you for the information. It was a good chat, and unfortunately time runs fast, but we got to do this again for sure.
Yeah, definitely. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, that was episode number 11 on the Daily Memo, Florida Real Estate with Robert Murillo, broker associate at Compass Florida, license number BK3373543, and John Sepulveda. Let them know, John.
John Sepulveda, Origin Point, NMLS 1309244. Thank you for your time today. I hope this information was valuable to you.